to the Chosen to Speak podcast, where your voice, your truth is valued. I'm the CEO Trend, and I'm your host. This week, we're back with episode 4, When God Chooses You, Life as the Chosen One. If you don't know what a chosen one is, by the end of this episode, I guarantee that you will fully understand the meaning of it. You'll even know whether or not you're the chosen one by watching to the end of this video. This is a very important episode, so I have created some talking points so that I can make sure that I educate you all and give you all my personal experience as well. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, "For many are called, but few are chosen." And by being chosen, you're also being called. But whether or not you accept the call is what shows God if you are ready to fulfill the assignments He has for you, if you are ready to truly walk in your purpose. And the thing about it is, through your obedience comes other people's deliverance. So if you don't accept the call, you're hindering someone else's deliverance, someone else's salvation, someone else's blessing, because we are vessels. We're not just here on earth to live and die. We're here on earth to fulfill a greater purpose. Some of us are chosen and put on special assignment to execute God's greater will, plan, and purpose for the world as a whole, for the generation, for society. Chosen is an adjective. It's defined in the dictionary as having been selected as the best or most appropriate. Now, being chosen by God has a similar but so much more significant meaning. Being chosen by God means that you are being selected by Him for a specific purpose, calling, blessing, and plan. It means that you are being set apart for a special role or mission, and you're given God's divine favor in order to complete it. Jeremiah 1:5 says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as prophet to the nations." So this means that as the chosen one, God had already knew who you were going to be before He placed you here. God created you for this specific purpose to fulfill. He chose you for the job. He chose you for the plan. He chose you for the mission. He chose you to complete a number of assignments for a greater purpose. That's what being chosen by God means. Everyone wants to be chosen, but not understanding that you have to distinguish the difference between the calling versus your personal plans. You have to be okay with God's purpose overriding what you thought life would be like for you. You have to surrender your own desires, your own plans, your own goals to submit to God's will, plan, and purpose. As the chosen one, you're given God's favor, but you're not exempt from responsibility. And in fact, being the chosen one comes with a lot more responsibility than the average everyday individual. Because as the chosen one, you have the responsibility of living according to God's will and serving Him and others. Being the chosen one comes with the responsibility of being obedient. It's carrying the weight of your calling while not allowing it to overwhelm you, because you have a purpose to fulfill. Being chosen means that you have to make sacrifices. You have to give up things, relationships, plans, individuals, environments, habits, ways about yourself. Being chosen comes with a greater responsibility that is so important to accomplishing the greater purpose and fulfilling the mission and the plan that God has called you to. The biggest responsibility of being chosen is obedience, because you have to be willing to obey God and follow His instructions and His commands and allow Him to guide you. You have to be willing to do what it is that God is telling you to do instead of what it is that you want to do. You have to be willing to die to your flesh and become renewed and transformed in spirit, so that you can walk by faith and not by sight, so that God can lead you, so that God can teach you, so that God can equip you, so that God can prepare you to fulfill His greater purpose. You have to be willing to be obedient, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's inconvenient. You have to be willing to be obedient, because if you're not willing, then you're not the one for the job. If you're not willing to be sacrificial, then being the chosen one is going to be a rocky road for you. As the chosen one, you can't be selfish, because being chosen is not about you. It's not personal. You're just chosen as the vessel used to execute God's greater purpose. But as the chosen one, you are called to serve God. You are called to serve others. You are called to fulfill a bigger plan that is beyond you. You can't worry about you and what it is that you want to do when you're the chosen one. You have to be selfless in this process because you didn't create the plan. It's God's plan. You just have to abide by it because you were chosen and selected and appointed for such a time as this. You were the one who were picked and trusted to be able to execute God's will, plan, and purpose. So your obedience is required. It's non-negotiable. You can't manipulate or dictate anything within the process because it's God's plan. You don't have a say-so in God's plan. You're just the one who were chosen, set apart, and selected to fulfill the plan. Luke 12:48 says that to whom much is given, much is required. So as the chosen one, we will have a greater responsibility because we are being given the title of chosen. We are being given a special plan and purpose and assignment to fulfill. So responsibility and obedience and sacrifice is required. There's also another verse, Romans 12:2 says, do not conform to the pattern of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. You have to be willing to die to your flesh, like I said, and be transformed and renewed by the Spirit of the Lord so that you can be guided and you can be led into fulfilling his special plans. You cannot move, do, or operate as the world does because you'll never be able to understand and see what God's greater plan is. You won't understand why it is that he's using you and what it is that he's using you for. What is it that he's trying to do through you? You have to be willing to submit and commit. Another big responsibility as the chosen one is understanding that anything that doesn't align with God's purpose must be forfeited, must be released, must be sacrificed because it is a conflict of interest to God's greater plan. So you have to be willing to let go of anything, everything, and anyone who doesn't align with your purpose, with your calling, with your assignment as the chosen one. You have to be willing to let go and release all things that serve no purpose to the purpose. You have to be willing to sacrifice everything that is detrimental to the purpose, to the plan, to the promise. You have to release and let go of all things that are not beneficial to God's divine will, plan, and purpose. You have to let it go, or else you're jeopardizing the mission. You're jeopardizing the plan. You're jeopardizing God's greater purpose. Although the responsibility of being chosen seems challenging, there are real challenges that come with being the chosen one, such as isolation and loneliness. God will separate you from people and environments that don't align with his plan. Don't forget that being chosen means that you're also set apart. You're separated. You're removed. You're isolated. So it comes with loneliness. It comes with feeling like you're all alone because in a sense you are, because God doesn't need you around anything or anyone that doesn't serve purpose to his purpose. No distractions, no counterfeits, nothing that'll jeopardize the greater plan. So you'll be isolated. You'll experience spiritual warfare. You'll have attacks that come in many different shapes and forms. You'll have struggles, opposition, dreams, all these things that come are a part of walking in your calling. You'll also be misunderstood because you're set apart. People will not understand your journey, and you'll feel like you don't fit in anywhere because you're not meant to be, because you're chosen. You were set apart. You were made different for a special purpose and assignment. The greatest challenge that you'll experience as the chosen one is spiritual warfare, because we live in an imperfect world. And although God intended this worldly world to be a righteous, prosperous, fruitful land, as humans, being that we are not perfect, we mess that up. So there's always going to be the battle between good and evil. And so the fact that you are chosen and set apart to be different than many individuals in the world and to make a difference and create an impact on the world, then there will be evil forces that come against you, trying to stop God's greater plans, trying to put an end to God's purpose, trying to attack you so that you cannot fulfill this greater assignment, plan, mission, purpose. These evil forces will try to get you to tap out, self-sabotage. These evil forces will try to come against you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, physically, in so many different ways to try to get you to give up, throw in the towel, forfeit the mission, That's what spiritual warfare is. But you have to remember your why. You have to remember your purpose. You have to remember why you were chosen, why you were set apart. You have to ask yourself, what is God using me to do? What is he trying to do through me? What is God trying to accomplish? Why am I chosen? And remember that John 15:18-19 says, if the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If you belong to the world, it will love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you. So you have to understand that there's a lot of opposition that comes with being chosen. That's just what it is, because you were chosen and you were selected by God. And not everyone is on God's side. But despite the opposition, Romans 8:28 says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. So you can rest assured that the purpose will be fulfilled, because no weapon formed against you shall prosper. All you have to do is trust the process. All you have to do is be disciplined, be obedient, submit, and commit. All you have to do is learn to walk by faith and not by sight, even when you don't have all the answers, even when it doesn't make sense. You have to learn how to be still and know that God is God. You have to be anxious for nothing but through prayer and petition with thanksgiving. Make your requests be known unto him. God says, lean not unto your own understanding, but in all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. You have to be okay with being in a waiting season at times. You have to trust that God is preparing you before he elevates you. You have to overcome doubt. You have to overcome fear. You have to overcome imposter syndrome. You have to believe that you are qualified because God chose you. You have to develop a certain level of strength and discipline, and you have to seek God. Because it is God who will give you everything that you need in order to fulfill this divine assignment. He'll give you the resources. He'll give you the knowledge. He'll give you the capacity, the strength, the ability, and all that you need to be equipped and prepared for the job. Matthew 7:14 says, but small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. God will guide you. You just have to be willing to be led. You have to be willing to follow. You have to be willing. That's the key word, willing. You have to submit. You have to commit, and you have to be willing. You have to be obedient. You have to be sacrificial. Not only will God guide you, but he'll give you wisdom, faith, discernment, and everything else that you'll need to fulfill the purpose. You're not in it alone. You're chosen. You're set apart. But if you seek God, you'll have everything that you need as the chosen one. I'm speaking from experience. You're talking to a fellow chosen one. I knew from the time that I was born that something just was different about me. I knew I was special. I knew that I didn't fit in with my generation, with the world, I just felt like an alien compared to everyone else. And then as I got older and as I built a relationship with God, I realized that I was chosen. I was set apart. I was chosen for such a time as this. I was given life and breath here on earth for God's greater plan, for his glory. It wasn't about me. I was just the vessel that God chose, that God trusted, that God knew was the only one that could do what it is that he needed done. It honestly seemed as though anything that would come into my life was just temporary. It would soon be removed. I wasn't close with family. I've never really had any friends. Like I never tried to fit in because I just didn't fit in, and I knew I was different. So I didn't even try to waste my time fitting in. I just knew that I was different. And so I learned how to master being alone. I mastered being alone because I knew that isolation was significant. And I knew that even though I may not have understood right then in that moment why I was feeling that way, why that was my experience, I knew it would make sense later. And it makes sense now because through my relationship with God, I now understand what my purpose is, what my assignment is. I understand why it is that God placed me here on this earth. I'm the chosen one. I was the one that was called to be set apart. I was the one that was called to break every chain in my bloodline. I was the one that was called to be the first for a lot. I was the one that was called to be moved from the back of the line to the front of the line for a specific purpose. I was the one that was called to be the stop in the end to everything that's been going on within my bloodline and the generations prior. I was chosen and called to recognize all that has been going on prior and to be the change, to make a difference, to create an impact, to set up the future generations to come. That's why I'm chosen. I'm supposed to do something that no eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind has imagined. I'm supposed to be the first for a lot in my bloodline, not just in my bloodline, but in my generation. Not just in my generation, but in the world. God has chosen me. And every chosen one has a different assignment to fulfill. As chosen ones, you have to be different. You have to move different. You have to act different, talk different, walk different, live life differently with intention and live it righteously so that you can actually make a difference. Because as a chosen one, you were set apart. You weren't meant to be like everyone else. You weren't meant to live like everyone else. You were meant to fulfill a specific purpose. So that's what you have to spend each day of your life intentionally doing, making sure that you're living and walking according to that purpose. So as the chosen one, I've had to sacrifice and let go of a lot of things. I had to let go of the love of my life, or at least what I thought was the love of my life. I had to sacrifice that relationship. I had to let go of friends. I had to stop talking to certain family members. I had to stop engaging in certain conversations. I had to stop drinking and clubbing and partying and listening to certain things and watching certain forms of entertainment. I had to do something different. I had to stop reacting in the same way that I used to. I had to stop treating people in the way that I used to treat people. I had to make a difference about everything in life. I had to change as a person in order to fulfill this assignment. I had to pack up my bags and move out of my 1-bedroom, 1-bath luxury apartment in Chicago, which is my hometown, and move to a new state, which I had never even been to before, because God said so. I had to leave my job because God said so. I had to cut off certain habits. I had to become single. I had to be abstinent. It's just what's required of me because I'm the chosen one and I have to break these generational curses. I have to do what's not normalized. I have to do what the majority isn't doing. I have to be different. I have to lead by example. I can't be a follower because as the chosen one, you're called to be set apart. You're called to be different. You're called to lead. You're called to serve. You're called to live according to God's will, God's plan, God's purpose. That's what being the chosen one is about. As the chosen one, you have to be willing to do things that others aren't. And you have to remember that this is why God called you and chose you, because he knew that no one else could do it but you. So just to give a word of encouragement from one chosen one to anyone else who believes that they were chosen by God, remember to embrace your calling with confidence and surrender. Be disciplined, be willing, be obedient, be teachable. Allow God to guide you and lead you. Trust that God doesn't call the qualified, but he qualifies the ones that he called. Remember that you were set apart for a reason and your obedience will bless others. So keep God's will, God's plan, and his purpose in mind and be as selfless as possible because you were chosen. For those of you who feel as though you're a chosen one, I want you to meet me in the comments answering 2 questions. I do want to spark conversation with my listeners. So I want you to reflect and answer. When did you first feel that God was calling you to something greater? And how has being set apart shown up in your life? And that's all I have for episode 4, When God Chooses You, Life is a Chosen One. If you enjoyed this week's episode, be sure to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe for more. Share it with a family member or a friend if you feel that it resonated with you and you know someone who it can bless. And don't forget to come back next Friday at 7 p.m. Central for another episode. Thank you all for tuning into the Chosen Speak podcast, where your voice, your truth is valued. I'm the CEO Trent, and I'm your host. See you next week.